Joining me today is clinical psychologist Shain Miller, and she's going to share 5 things that can help you navigate going through your divorce and dividing up real estate and not having to necessarily have it turn into a bloodbath. And you're definitely going to want to stick around for the bonus question at the end. Shain, thank you so much for coming and sharing this information.
Hi, thanks, Kelly. Thank you for having me.
Do you often recommend that people kind of Marie Kondo their living space when they're going through a divorce to help with the separation aspect of it? Like what practical tools do you offer?
Well, there's a lot of emotional consideration that goes into our practical separation, right? So besides being a financial asset, a house has emotional impact on people. And for different people, it means different things. It can mean financial security, it can mean safety, it can warm our heart, or it can really not be our happiest place. It's very important for each of us to know how we feel about what we want to take with us and what we don't. And if we find ourselves making these decisions emotionally, such as, I'm taking the expensive car so he doesn't have it, we may want to have second thoughts about that. Yeah. We want to recognize that we're sad or we're hurt or we're grieving and what we're grieving. Are we grieving the loss of this individual, or are we grieving the loss of what we thought we could build together? Or it doesn't have to be the end of a nuclear family. A lot of co-parenting arrangements work out very well. So it's, once again, very dependent upon the two individuals involved in the separation. It's important to feel our feelings. It's also extremely important not to let them take over. We need to have emotional regulation so we can be an objective observer, because we want to make this as smooth of a process as possible. This is, everybody's going to go through a lot of pain. We don't have to make it more painful.
Absolutely. What do you think is a great way to emotionally regulate? Like, what's just a really simple tool?
Well, it's important to take a few deep breaths. If you have a meditation practice, do a meditation.
And if you don't, you need to start one.
And it's also important to create a little space for yourself. If both of you are staying in the space while the divorce is being worked out, you're still going to want to have a little, what do you want to call it? A man cave.
A domicile within the domicile.
Yeah. Nice. I may borrow that.
Okay. A domicile within the domicile. Safe boundaries, safe space.
Yeah. And go there, and whatever makes you relax is what you want to be sure to do, so that you can come to conversations as discourse and not confrontation.
Yeah. So let's go with the scenario that both people need to stay in the home until the divorce is settled. Are there other possible ground rules that you might want to establish, like just to make it simpler?
Everyone can make up their ground rules, their boundaries. If you're both staying in the home, maybe neither one of you brings a date home.
Probably a good idea.
If you're both staying in the home, maybe you can determine if you're going to make meals together or if you're going to take care of yourselves individually. When there's children involved, you may want it to appear more cohesive so that they don't get flipped out with the separation and feeling it in the house.
Right. So sitting down and having a calm conversation, if that's possible, to determine sort of house rules that will be newly established that don't reflect how it used to be in the house. That's one thing. And then the other thing is, maybe bringing on a counselor, a qualified counselor, to help both of you walk through that together. What do you think about this topic, consciously uncoupling? Like, I'm a woo-woo girl, for sure. But don't be coming after my home in the Hamptons, okay? Just saying.
Consciously uncoupling. That became popular when Gwyneth Paltrow said it. I'm sure that there are a lot of articles written about it that discuss it in depth. The concept to me deals more with the emotional uncoupling than the asset.
The practical.
Uncoupling, exactly. And so there are a few things that will be helpful when you're trying to go out on your own as an unmarried person for the first time in what could be many, many years. So this is where some of the opportunity for growth and personal awareness comes in. One of the things is being able to emotionally regulate, to understand that you're feeling what you feel and it doesn't get to lead the conversation. It doesn't get to drive the car. It will be the passenger sitting next to you going, yeah, but I'm really sad. And you go, I know, but we want to take care of this fairly, equitably, and calmly. It's important to know what your own triggers are. They've probably been activated during the marriage and during these trying times of preparing to divorce. And so you want to know what your triggers are so that you can red flag them, you can take a break, you can ask for a timeout, you can, so that you don't find yourself getting elevated and it goes in a direction that is not going to be helpful for anyone. Along with knowing your triggers means knowing your boundaries. You know, we all have deal breakers. It's very likely some of them have been
broken.
Have been at least touched upon.
Right.
And you got a little jolt. And so it's important to know them. You don't have to announce boundaries. You can internally create them and then work to maintain them in a calm way. You don't have to demand observance. You can get it through your behavior. Something that I've found to be valuable during a marriage is what the Gottmans call the state of the union. And basically, whether you need it every day, or you need it once a week, or you need it once a month, or you need it once a year, you figure it out. But it's basically creating time to sit down and go, how are we doing? How are we doing as a married couple? How are we doing financially? How are we doing in navigating our parenting? How are we doing about the schooling that they're getting? And if you do this, it creates an open communication and you don't get blindsided by someone coming in going, I didn't want our kids to go to that school. You insisted. What do you mean? I thought we were both on the same page. So if you have a state of the union and you have been able to track how your marriage is doing, that will give you a foundation to be able to communicate about the separation also.
Now, to me, it almost feels like if you were doing that, you might not even be getting divorced because chances are you've done a better job at communicating, right? And not getting into the weeds with each other. However, even the best marriages sometimes just don't work out for whatever reasons. But let's say that a couple has never done a State of the Union type of thing, and now they find themselves in this position where they are going through a divorce. Can they still use it?
Well, yeah, you could still use it. But also, there's another thing that I'm going to let you know, also from the Gottmans, which is when we get activated, if we had a little pulsometer on our finger, we would watch it elevate. And then it would take a minimum of 20 minutes to get back to baseline.
Oh.
So what the Gottmans suggest is a half hour. So what we're saying is you don't want to be ruminating, you don't want anything, but what you want to do is you want to call a half-hour timeout. Because if you feel yourself getting activated, there's nowhere to go but up unless you walk away. So if there's an arrangement that when one person requests a timeout, that it be observed, that it be 30 minutes long, and if it in 30 minutes, well, I'm going to have to take Sam to soccer practice, then the conversation is, okay, let's take a pause. We're pushing pause. And let's talk about this after the kids go to bed tonight, approximately 9 p.m. That way, everybody knows it's not getting swept under the rug. It's not being ignored. And the timeout is a hint to the other party that I'm getting activated and I don't want to argue. So let me go calm down.
I love that. One of my favorite teachers is Pema Chodron, and she talks about this concept of the Shenpa. Shenpa is a Tibetan term, and it basically means it's like, she calls it like pre-verbal, but it's that feeling that suddenly you're getting hooked. And she says sometimes it could be a smell that triggers it, it could be a song, it could be a word, anything. The more we can become aware that we are getting hooked, which is why a meditation practice, I mean, I can't tell you what a difference that's made in my life. I still blow it. I mean, I'm human, right? But I have a lot more awareness because I'm flexing that muscle all the time in meditation to teach myself how to check in. And it seems like this is exactly what you're saying. And I really feel like this could be an incredibly powerful tool. One, that you have this self-awareness, but also that your partner and you don't get bloody-minded about continuing to have a conversation that's de-escalating. Shain, can you walk me through how risk tolerance can affect how people handle going through divorce?
This is a great question because it goes back to self-awareness. And
are you sensing a theme?
I have a few questions that I use as a barometer. What do you want? Why do you want it? Who do you have to be to get it? And does it take you in the direction you want to be going?
Those are some powerful questions.
And they're all interrelated. They really are. So when we're looking at risk tolerance, such as, can I ever afford to have a house again? So maybe I hold on to this with both fists so tight. Well, what do I want? I want the house. Why do I want it? Because I may never be able to buy myself one. And I want to be able to have that for my kids.
Or yourself.
Or yourself.
Right?
Or yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I never had kids, but I'll tell you, being a homeowner, it's a big deal.
And, okay, so what do I want? Why do I want it? Who do I have to be to get it? Do I have to be, pardon my French, a real biatch in order to get the house in the divorce proceedings? And if I am, is that who I want to be?
Okay. Oh, that's tough.
Yeah.
That's really tough.
And then the other question is, and if I am, and I get that, is it leading me in the direction I want to go? Well, what will I have to do to maintain it? I will have to take a second job because I can't afford this mortgage myself. Or I will have to have, I mean, you have to think through things.
Right, I'll need a roommate, I'll need what? Yeah.
And then you'll be able to have the benefit versus risk. The benefit of owning the home after the divorce may mean that you get more of the community property debt also. And now, how are you going to afford all of that? So these are really important questions in helping us learn who we are to assess our own tolerance level of risk.
And I wonder how many people really have assessed their own risk tolerance, because I have a very high risk tolerance. I'm an entrepreneur, of course, right? And I came from entrepreneurs, but I've been mated with someone in particular who had an extremely low risk tolerance. And it was devastating for our relationship. And it made the separation, we weren't married, but it made the separation very contentious. And it was really tough. But I wonder, like, how many people do you know actually have awareness around that particular part of themselves?
It's interesting because I think that when COVID happened, people really saw differences in risk tolerance levels. Who was comfortable in one mask, who was comfortable in two masks, who was comfortable going out, who was comfortable having people over, and that was one of the things that caused so much friction, was not being at a similar risk tolerance level as far as this specific issue was going on. And it's the same thing with money, with who drives fast and who doesn't.
Right. So how would you recommend that somebody who maybe has never considered their risk tolerance, how would you recommend they might walk through an exercise with themselves to assess?
There are different ways of assessing our own risk tolerance levels. We can look back historically and see who we were when we were younger and what we did. You know, I've jumped out of a plane. I did it once.
Wow.
I was attached to someone. There was no way I was going to do it not attached to someone. And that was it. It was a one and done.
Okay, got you. So basically, the same person who might love roller coasters or jumping out of planes, even just once, because I never would, might also be the same person who does not like to take financial risks at all.
Yeah.
So as it pertains to the idea of going through a divorce, if somebody has been risk averse to financial risk in particular, because this is really what it's about, right? That maybe if they can have some awareness around that, that they can get a little more curious, which creates like more of an opening, rather than shutting down and going to default behaviors of risk aversion. Because ultimately, I mean, I think that can really work against someone in a scenario where it's like, okay, well, you have to sell the house because you have to divide the assets, you know, and neither one of you can afford to stay.
Yeah.
So you're going. And like the sooner you can make peace with that, the better. So let's start with, is risk aversion in my personality around finance driving why I'm digging in so hard?
That's a really, really astute observation, Kelly.
Okay, well, sometimes I get it right. Okay, good. Okay, so I think that, you know, if folks can just raise their awareness, I don't mean to say just because it's not a simple thing, but raising awareness around this can really help the whole process go.
Check yourself. That's really what this is. Those barometer questions, I have pared them down, and they're very specific for a reason. I personally find them very helpful in my practice and in my own life.
Shain, when you're working with couples that are going through a divorce and one of the partners is definitely going to stay in the home and the other one is leaving, do you have any tools that you can recommend to help the couple begin to make this transition a little more peacefully?
Well, so let's look at this. If you're the person who's staying in the house, you may want to be gracious in accommodating movers for the partner who's moving out, to accommodate any kind of need to come by, swing by and pick things up.
Mail or what have you.
If you're the one leaving, you want to do the same thing in the opposite. You want to confirm when your movers are going to be available, that it's okay with the partner who's staying. You want to be respectful of places that they've asked you not to go, perhaps the bedroom. It's basic, common courtesy, respect, and communication. With that agreement, what we're talking about is negotiating. So here's a premise for negotiation.
Oh, bring it on, girl.
Make a statement, ask a question, then be quiet.
See, I suck at that last part. Make a statement, ask a question, blab my head off.
Yeah.
So
for example, my movers are available only the second week of this month.
That's your statement.
Is there a time that would be better for you during their window?
There's your question. And then, got it. Note to self, stop talking.
That's how you listen.
Yeah. And active listening. So this is one of the things that I have learned over the years is that you can be listening for practical, like I can repeat back to you everything you just said, but active listening is more like you're actually embodying what the person is saying to you. You're trying to assess the meaning and really look into their eyes and feel them as they're saying the thing that they're saying. Because just knowing the practicalities of what they're saying is really only a small part of what somebody is saying.
And if you find yourself waiting for them to finish so that you can give them your response, you haven't listened.
Exactly.
You've been thinking about your response.
Calculating.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most of us are guilty of listening to respond rather than listening to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is our bonus question. Do you find that self-sabotage around wealth is something that tends to get turned up when people are going through a divorce?
It all depends on the people.
Sure.
What we're talking about, Kelly, is defense mechanisms. What do we do to self-soothe? Mm-hmm. And is it healthy for us? So retail therapy, going out and shopping and shopping and shopping may make us feel better, but it doesn't help our financial situation at all.
Right.
So what we're doing with that is we're trying to fill an emptiness. And this is where self-awareness comes in, and knowing what our defense mechanisms are is actually the second step. The first step is figuring out what needs have not been met. What is that hole that's trying to be filled? And in doing that, then we find our defense mechanisms. And this goes way back to childhood. So part of our defense mechanisms has to do, again, with risk tolerance levels. Because for some people, when they're terrified of being alone, they buy things. And that could be because that's how they feel safe. So their risk tolerance for, I'm not going to say scarcity, but for less than what they've got becomes untenable for them. So really it's about anxiety and depression, and how do we modulate that within ourselves? Because anxious and depressed during a divorce is pretty common.
Yeah, standard operating procedure.
Exactly. So, you know, the idea of scarcity for a lot of people comes with the territory of divorce and being on their own again. The idea of holding on to what they've got, what they earned as a couple, can become a primary focus. So what you call self-sabotage, I say, is defense mechanisms trying to protect ourselves.
Right. And I've seen with clients that I've worked with that are going through divorce that oftentimes one of the partners is like, I always wanted XYZ. Like, I always wanted the living room to look like this, or I always wanted these toys in the kitchen because I love to cook. And I can never have them because my partner would always, no, we can't afford it, right? So if we're going to employ practical tools around self-sabotage and making our situation worse in this scenario, what practical tools would you recommend?
Well, along with self-awareness and emotional regulation, what we want to do is the desire for immediate gratification. A practical thing to do. Learn to tolerate the frustration and postpone gratification. So find the one you want, find out how much it is, figure out how much you need to put aside. That way you're not denying yourself. You've accounted for that money, but you haven't spent it in advance.
So if you're unhappy in a marriage and you know you have to take this step, I just want to encourage you that you can recover in every sense of the word. Financially, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all of it. It's all available to you, and you can use these practical tools that Shain has offered up, get some support, and know that the best is yet to come. Shain, thank you. You've just been an amazing wealth of knowledge and insight.
Thank you for having me, Kelly. I really appreciate it.
If you like this video, be sure to watch this next one where we dive into some more great information about navigating a divorce and real estate.